And we are back with another edition of Monday Previews. Hockey Princess is taking care of the other games. The only one I am going to go over with you is we play the Colorado Avalanche. I believe that game is Monday. Let's find out for sure. Monday. As you can tell, I got my reporter's cap on and everything. First off, Colorado made a bunch of moves. Some that we've already talked about. Trading Mikko Rantanen for Nashis. Nashis is now on the top line with Nathan MacKinnon, and is averaging more than a point a game. Mikko Rantanen struggled mightily in Carolina and has since been traded to Dallas. So, Colorado seems to have really gotten a much better deal on all of this. And for some reason, Mikko Rantanen signed for even less than he was offered in Colorado. I understand the state tax, but I think at the end of the day, it doesn't make that much of a difference because everything else is more expensive in Texas. Let's see. The Avalanche have been on a nice little winning streak for a little while. They've won 5 in a row, 7-3 in their last 10. They were number 1 for the wild card. They are now 3 in the Central Division. And we can only hope that stays that way. Sets up for a beautiful Colorado-Dallas first-round matchup. And considering now Mikko Rantanen is on Dallas, there should be plenty to talk about that. You're going to hear some dogs in the backyard. Not much I can do about it. It's utter craziness now. The neighbors are around. Might have to move somewhere. Perhaps you could see. A lot of running. See all the running? Yeah, terribly sorry about that. All right, we're going to continue when I get a new studio and everything, but, I need to be outside to have a cigar. It's 60 degrees out. Okay. Let's go over Colorado, the rest of their moves. They picked up Eric Johnson, who will be a depth defenseman for them. Charlie Coyle was traded for Casey Middlestat. A lot of laughing going on at everybody. Let's go with the trade that happened before then. Brock Nelson was traded from the New York Islanders. Brock Nelson then came to Colorado, basically fulfilling Colorado's number 2 center spot, thus making Casey Middlestat not all that important. Casey Middlestat is more of a top 6 player. He struggles a little bit in a checking line as a center. So, they went out and traded Casey Middlestat for Charlie Coyle from Boston, who fits in nicely to a third-line checking center. As far as the Hawks are concerned, also in net, there's Mackenzie Blackwood, who's having a very good year, and Scott Wedgwood. Colorado is playing back-to-back. They play again Tuesday. So, as always for the Chicago Blackhawks, we will get a backup goaltender. So we'll get Scott Wedgwood, who, isn't quite near as good as Blackwood. I understand. A lot of wood. Let's see. Nothing else really to talk about with Colorado. We all know about Nate MacKinnon, Cale Makar. They're basically healthy. Nushkin has come back in for them and really solidified a second line, basically being a scoring threat on a second line. Nashis then has the ability to just go up with MacKinnon. They'll make a run for the top spot, I would assume, but I think Winnipeg is too much in hand. The Hawks have been on a good little streak here, at least, showing a little bit. This one could turn ugly quickly. This is a hungry team now dialed in for the playoffs. So this will be Monday night. And again, I would assume you get the backup goaltender. It'll be another late start being out in Colorado. And I think that's all I've got before the dogs start up again.
And we are back with another Monday preview this week. We have Ness and Jey here from Over the Glass. Guys, thanks so much for coming on and talking about the Sharks with us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. First off, for those who don't know a ton about the San Jose Sharks, or maybe they just know via their TikTok For You page or some social media, who would you guys say are kind of like the key pieces, the big names to know in the Sharks world?
Well, I mean, definitely first overall pick from this previous draft, Macklin Celebrini. Like, I'm sure you can relate with the Hawks. We're kind of down here in the cellar trying to rebuild, and the season that Connor Bedard came into the spotlight, that was the season that Erik Karlsson decided he was gonna like light up things left and right. So the season after that, Macklin was definitely being talked up a lot about. And when we got the opportunity to get the first overall pick, that was super, super exciting for Sharks territory. First time ever in franchise history to being given an opportunity. And of course, no surprise, we picked Macklin Celebrini a few seasons before that, or that previous season. We picked up Will Smith, 4th overall. This past off season, we secured more of a hopeful back end in Yaroslav Askarov. So those would be like the first 3 that come to mind as key up and coming pillars for the Sharks in this rebuild.
Are there any pillars right now that you think that maybe they weren't a like recent draft pick or more on the up and coming side that have kind of been in the league for a while that you expect for them to stay on for maybe the next couple of seasons, or is everyone kind of a placeholder for the next generation?
I feel like they're probably more of placeholders at this current stage in the rebuild. If any of the veterans stay, I would feel like it would probably someone like Vlasic, just because he's like grandfathered into the team. Yeah. It's like his contract seems really impossible to move right now. And he's always said that he wants to retire a Shark. So, the GMs always try to respect the players' wishes. But I don't know if there's anyone that's like safe per se to stay on this team for the long run.
Fair enough. We're definitely in the same position. From a rebuilding fan base to another rebuilding fan base, it seems like the Sharks world is still just very positive during this rebuild. Why do you think that is?
The vibes. We always talk about it on our podcast. Like, last year, you could kind of see it building a little bit, but it was such an awful season. The Sharks struggled so much, and like the fans were not having a great time. I think this year, there's been more attention to like building the team chemistry in the locker room. They're doing more outside activities. They're actually posting about them. Just last week, I think the team went curling out in where were they, in Montreal? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, mm-hmm. So, like, they're showing more of that, as well as, even though the Sharks are losing and they're at the bottom of the league, they're not struggling to score. And I think a lot of that was the struggles last year. It was like the Sharks just, no matter what they did, they just couldn't find the back of the net. And so the vibes are just different.
Yeah, as an outsider, it very much seems like that, because I know we typically kind of lump like Chicago, Anaheim, and the San Jose kind of in a similar boat on our show, but it seems like y'all in California are just having a lot more fun than we are with the rebuild. And I don't know if it's because we had a dynasty not too long ago, so everybody just takes themselves a little too seriously, but I'm like, oh my God, you guys are having fun over there.
I think it's also important to note, with this being the first season for Ryan Warsofsky, behind the bench, his first NHL coaching gig, and he's kind of, I mean, he's maybe somewhere closer to like to Foley and Vlasic age, but he's still very much like, I think he resonates more with majority of the group. We early in the season, the reporters talked about how there's music playing at practice, and it's even if it's after a really tough loss. I mean, he'll obviously put in the licks in there. They'll do, skates back and forth real hard for a bit, but then he loosens up. It isn't this like old man hockey mentality of like coming in hard on the rookies, and it's definitely a different approach, and I just think everybody in the room is just buying into it, and they understand that while we do need to go into these games and focus on playing our game well, you're not fearing that if you don't do what the coaches expect of you, that you're scared to go into the locker room and the repercussions that I think they're having a healthy balance, and you can see that both on and off the ice.
Yeah, I feel like the rookies in San Jose and the rookies versus like Philly are in a completely different like locker room culture mindset.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I know you. The Sharks throughout the season have kind of had some switches with the goalie tandem, not only like at the NHL level but also at the AHL level. What are your guys' thoughts? Were you surprised when that happened earlier in the season? Were you cheering for it?
I don't think either of us was surprised at the Blackwood trade. We were expecting him to be traded at the deadline. I think the timing of it was what caught us off guard, because it happened a lot sooner than anyone expected. I think I'm a little bit more surprised that today it was announced that Vanacek was held off of the roster, the starting lineup, for trade reasons, and he hasn't been playing great for us. He hasn't been terrible. Like, the team as a whole is terrible, but I think I'm surprised that there's interest for him, not to be mean, just because of how much the team has struggled and his numbers aren't great. But I'll be curious to see where that goes.
At what point are you guys expecting Askarov to kind of just be your guy? Or do you think he will end up being your guy?
Yes.
I think we both we're buying into the vision, and we were just talking this. We recorded a couple of days ago. We had a brief discussion about when we did get Askarov at the beginning of the season. Like, I did not see that coming from a mile away. I guess I'm just used to how we've been moving pieces, and the way that the previous regime under Doug Wilson, you kind of got into the habit of understanding how he played the game, versus Mike Greer is very much like he holds his cards real close to him, and he's 4 steps ahead. Like, the first move is not even, he's over here like, making moves, and we're starting to get really excited. Like, both of us are very much looking forward to the trade deadline. But the fact that we were able to get in on the trade for Askarov, because it was one of the biggest uncertainties out of, of course, the Sharks need to make improvements like everywhere in the lineup, but the goaltender position in terms of long-term was very much still unstable. So while Ness said, the Blackwood trade, like, I think it could have gone really either, there's multiple ways it could have gone this season, but the fact that he was moved much quicker is actually the most surprising aspect of it. And from what we've seen from Askarov so far, like, we're excited for him to refine his game and get more opportunities up here. He's injured right now, so I don't know if we'll see him at all for the rest of the season, but very much like once we got him, the Sharks gave him a 2-year extension. So they're very much like, he wanted to leave the Predators organization because he didn't see the path for him to move forward with them. But the Sharks have definitely kept, from what we can see, the promise to him that we will give you that opportunity as long as you show up and show us, why we should keep you here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think
yeah,
I'd
I
be
don't-
surprised. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to say, I think I'd be surprised to see them moving forward with him as a starter starting next season. I think if anything, they might try to find him a veteran to back up to kind of get him more into the groove of how the NHL plays before they commit all in with Askarov as our starter.
Hey, we've
Really
got a
want
couple of extras with this Spencer Knight signing.
Yeah.
That seems pretty exciting for your club. I didn't see that happening, but
I
seems
did
cool.
not either. And I was honestly, when that happened, I was driving home from watching one of the other prospects out in Michigan, and I just get a text from my dad just being Seth Jones traded, and I'm like, I was expecting that on the trade deadline, but I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I see the deal, and I'm like, how? I don't want to ask too many questions. I'm okay with that. But sure. And yeah, from another rebuilding franchise to another rebuilding franchise, I feel like, yes, we need pieces everywhere, but like getting a potential goaltender with some serious longevity, I feel like is a huge difference maker. Even if they're a couple of years down the line, it's still so excited because I feel like those are rarer to come by than getting like a top 3 pick that can score.
Right.
And especially a goaltender that had a mentor like Bobrovsky.
Yeah, definitely. Fingers crossed, hoping good things with that. But I know, so this is going to come out after the trade deadline, but we can still do some fun predictions prior to the trade deadline. Do you think you guys are buyers, sellers, or not, or kind of quiet?
We're definitely selling.
It's a fire sale over here.
Our pending UFAs. Yeah, I mean, Greer's made it very clear that of course, there's been talks with Zetterlund. He's a pending RFA. We're very much keeping him. All the UFAs, there's been no talks about extensions. We moved on from CC, Granlund, of course, Blackwood, Vanacek, like Ness just said, was held off. He's playing backup right now in the Sabres game. Our much beloved Mario Ferraro. I honestly think he got married this last week just because he knows he could be moved. And he's just kind of securing everything in his life. But really just any of them, Nico Sturm, Jan Ruda, none of these guys have any extensions signed, no talks whatsoever. Very much if a team is calling, Greer is going to listen. If the trade makes sense, he's going to do what's in the best interest of the club. And a lot of these guys have expressed that they love playing here. They would like to come back. And I don't really think it's just that stuff you just say. I generally do feel like they enjoy being here, but they understand this is a rebuilding team and they're not part of the up and coming youth. And this is just the direction, the situation that they're going to have to be in. So, so we're definitely, if we could get anything for these guys and, continue to build up the prospect pool, I think Greer will try his best to move any of these guys before Friday.
Makes sense. I was going to ask if do you guys think you'll make more noise in the trade deadline or come like July 1st or around the draft weekend in terms of acquirees?
Everywhere.
Yeah, I don't think Greer
whenever
has
we
shown a pattern.
can.
I don't think Greer has shown a pattern of when he likes to make trades. Is really like when he sees the opportunity, and like what we've noticed outside of like the timing of players being moved around is trade deadline. We get draft picks for the upcoming draft or whatever, future drafts. And then during the summer is when he'll acquire a lot of UFAs, like veterans, to come in and like help out the young guys. So that's I don't know. He's gonna make moves.
He's gonna do things and they're gonna work out great. Are there any, because I know you guys have Ben Clay and you have Will Smith, is there any guys that you're kind of hoping that make the jump next season?
Oh, well,
Jump
we
in
know that.
defense.
Who?
Or I said, or not yet.
Oh.
Oh.
Well, we do know that Quentin Musty is cooking in the OHL, and just the setup of his contract and all that stuff. He was either he had to make the Sharks or he had to go back down to his OHL club. He wasn't going to go to the Barracuda. So I'm interested to see. I mean, he looks like, while he wasn't able to start the season because of whatever drama is happening over with his club, once he was able to play, he was just scoring left and right. He got injured. He came back, continued scoring left and right. So I almost feel like maybe it's time for him to make the leap. I would.
Is also.
Yeah, I don't know if he would make the leap to the big club. I don't know if he falls into that same parameters as Quentin Musty's dealing with now, but if Greer sees that he's someone that could make the leap to the big club, who am I to say no? There's a lot of guys that are just kind of marinating a little bit at their different clubs and within the CUDA. Luca Cagnoli, like, he's been my short king. I don't know if he's going to make the leap next season, but he was definitely one of the final defensemen at training camp. He was at the final cut. And I was almost like, oh, are we like putting too much pressure on him to make the big club? But when they made the cut and he went back and he went to the CUDA, I was like, okay, that's fine. I would rather he be there, cook a little bit. We saw how that worked out really well for William Eklund back when he could have made the leap to the NHL level, but they decided to send him back to Sweden. He was really heartbroken about it, but you could tell it was the best decision. And then he spent the next season exclusively with the CUDA, and then now he's really starting to make a difference. And so I guess those are a couple of names that I could see maybe like sniffing, maybe not exclusively with the big club, but some guys that could definitely be knocking at the door and getting some games in. And if it means they kind of come up every now and then from the CUDA, like we've seen in the last couple of seasons with Shakir Mukhamadullin, who we got from the Timo Meier trade, like he spent a whole season down with the CUDA, 1 or 2 seasons, and now he's starting to be more of a regular with the big club. So we're definitely trying to give the young guys the ice time, but trying not to rush it at the same time.
Makes sense. Last and final question for you guys. I know we're both in the kind of position where we need things everywhere. What would you say is the biggest hurdle or like the biggest piece that they're missing right now? It could be a mentality thing, we need a top line right-handed defenseman. If you had to pick one.
Jay,
you want to say anything first?
Oh, I was going to just say like the big thing for me is a defensive defenseman for sure. I don't know right or left-handed. I don't know enough about hockey to know what's best for the team. I think Jay knows a little bit more about that, but I feel like the pieces are coming together in a lot of like the forward slots, and we have Askarov coming up in the pipeline, so we're not super worried about goalies, the goalies right now. But a defenseman, like a very steady, consistent, reliable defenseman, I think is something that the team is missing.
I would agree with that. I think our defensive end still needs some work. I feel like that will probably be the focus of this upcoming draft. While it's not one of the stronger drafts in comparison to last season, I mean, we did see that Mike Greer made some moves to get us into a position where we could pick out of those six a high end defenseman from last season's draft. So I think he's going to try and do that. If not, pick one of the up and coming forwards, because we always need more opportunities out there to score. But I guess my pick would be just time. I mean, we see with like Macklin Celebrini, like, I mean, I know you like with Connor Bedard, like he comes as advertised. He was able to slot right into you guys' lineup like right away. But then we didn't see that sort of bravado being talked about with Macklin Celebrini, even though we could see all of the potential that he did have. I almost kind of felt like me looking at Connor Bedard playing, and then I'm like, okay, that, but maybe like a third less. I don't know, just because like the media wasn't really hyping him up. So I didn't really feel like I should hype him up. But we saw just right from the get-go, if he didn't get injured for those couple of games beginning of the season, we could probably see like him much further than he is right now. He's definitely been impressing us, and Will Smith's been coming along. But I think while we're blown away with where they are now, we just broke our losing streak, but we just could not figure out a way to close out games. And I think that just comes from experience. Like there's a lot of young guys out there who they may be able to know how to do that from back when they were playing college hockey or the juniors. But at the NHL level, you go against a team like the Jets, where we were in it until we weren't, only because the Jets just have that experience. They have those guys in their lineup that just know how to dig in deep and close out games. And where we were this time last season is such a huge improvement. And I can't wait to see where they are this time next season. We just need more time to let them grow their game.
Makes sense. Makes complete sense. Also, to be fair, the Winnipeg Jets have like a frozen brick wall in front of their net. There's very few teams that are actually competing against them. I'm not sure if it's Winnipeg's year, but gosh, it's one of the closest ones they've had in a minute. Guys, thank you so much for coming on. Do you want to take a minute to plug Over the Glass?
Sure. So me and Ness,
gotta find you guys.
Yeah. So me and Ness, we are the co-host of Over the Glass Hockey. We put out new episodes every Monday. You can find us on YouTube, on any audio platform that you get your podcast, and follow us on our socials, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. I think that's about it. And yeah, we primarily talk about the Sharks, but we also kind of enjoy following the league as a whole and dabbling in some other leagues. And we just try to have fun. We're not like a huge analytical podcast or anything. So if you're coming to find another one of those, we're not doing that. And if we are, we're not taking it that seriously. Yeah.
We're not professionals. We do this for fun.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.